Hello, everyone, and welcome to our second Classical Crossover Magazine Team Chat. Hi,
Hello.
Hey! This
Hello.
is so cool. We're all together
Finally, yay.
and being very international.
So this is the second time we've been together, isn't it, Joanna?
Yes, it
Yeah,
is. It is.
yeah,
We did the last chat.
yeah. And
Yeah.
it's so nice to see you, Grace, because the last time I think I spoke to you, um, I actually interviewed you on my
Yes.
show Thursday, and
Thursday. I had a baby a few days later.
yeah, you were just about to have your baby.
I got
But
through the interview though.
yeah, exactly. It's lovely to see you again, and
Oh, you too.
obviously, Josh, it's really lovely to meet you for the first time here.
Yes, yes. It's so
Yeah.
lovely to meet you. And also, it's special for me to meet Grace, like virtually,
Amazing.
because we've literally spoken several times a day via WhatsApp messages. So
Non-stop, non-stop.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
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 so
yeah,
this is
yeah.
very cool.
It feels almost like this is the new reality. Like we've
Yes,
actually met.
Exactly.
exactly.
it's so crazy the amount of people that, like, I think we've always had Skype or Zoom, but we've just
Yeah,
never done this until this quarantine happened. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, wait, I could actually talk to her. There we go.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And the strange thing, I don't know if anyone else has found, but at the beginning, it was really a bit strange on Zoom. It was all a bit like, how do we move? Because we looked completely different on Zoom to how we think we look.
Yeah.
And I don't know about anyone else, but when I was calling my family, I realized that they always see me at my worst angles because I'd be like lounging on the sofa, and they'd get all the horrible
Chin.
angles. And then in the end, I'd have the computer and I'd be just making dinner in the kitchen whilst talking to them, and it became much more normal than to like have to sit on a sofa or at a table. I don't know if
Yeah.
anyone else experienced that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
I think we've all got used to it. And then there's that actually meeting people in real life is now happening again. It's a bit like, oh my God, you're really there.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have to wear shoes when you meet people in real life.
Yes, yes. You need to exactly. You need to have smart trousers on rather than pajamas.
That's new.
I know that's not fair. I think we should be able to wear pajamas always, but
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely,
The new
definitely.
normal.
Yeah,
We did one chat in, I think 2020 is when we did our first one, right? And we're like, we need to do this again. But even during quarantine, we've all been so busy. So I'm going to kind of
yeah.
rattle off and see what you guys have all been up to. First, I'm going to start actually with Josh because this is his first time on the chat and we've never done a proper interview with Josh. So if you can tell us a little bit about yourself, about some of the highlights you've had in your career so far. He's like super multi-talented. So yeah, tell us a little bit about you, Josh.
yeah. Oh boy. And I'm sorry, I apologize. Obviously, I'm outside and you're going to hear construction and trucks passing, but
That's fine.
hopefully it's not too loud. I am, goodness, currently doing my master's in Cincinnati at the College Conservatory of Music, or CCM for short. The other CCM, because we're also CCM here, and emails get a little bit confusing sometimes if my brain isn't thinking. But uh, I digress. I am a choral conductor primarily, or that's what I'm studying to do. But
Wow.
I've been a pianist for many years, and so during the quarantine, I did a lot of behind the scenes work of recording. I spent so much time at my keyboard and laptop. It was actually nice because I was starting to feel like here I have all this stuff that I never use, and then I used it all the time. Prior to that, I got just prior to the shutdown, I feel like I've been more involved in musical theater, and
Mm-hmm.
so I started working at a theater that we just opened in 2019, actually, in Southwest Michigan, and so I've been kind of the music director there, not officially, but so far of all of musical productions, I've been the musical director there. And actually, that was the first time, well, the only time that I got to meet music theater composer, and like giant Jason Robert Brown.
Wow.
Uh, it was an incredibly cool experience. I didn't work with him, but I did prepare singers to perform with him on the piano.
Wow.
He did our opening gala, and it was just nice to meet someone that I've looked up to their music for a long time and have performed, and then meet him, and such a just nice personality, and very inspiring to
Mm.
me as an aspiring composer type person. Yeah.
Since the last time, we also added another amazing columnist who the audience knows and loves. So Grace Foley. So
Hello.
tell us about Grace Notes. Tell us, you also have a single coming out, Grace. Like, you have so much on your plate right now.
Yes, my plate overflows at the moment. I guess my style of writing is very much, my take on things. And I feel like I don't have a plan when I write my column. Some people say, like, some people have notes and points and get to their point possibly quicker than I do. But I think I figure things out as I'm writing. And I think sometimes it's just figuring out my own thoughts on something, like when I wrote about online versus live performance. I had a lot of revelations as I was typing, and then it just ends up being my column. I have tried in the past having this plan about I'm going to hit this point, and no, then it's not me. So I think it is just my brain going onto a page, and it seems to work out quite nicely. And I just love it because it's something I used to always like writing when I was younger. And then I wrote a little bit for a local publication here, and then I just stopped a few years ago. And to be back writing is so nice because, as we all know, like, music is all consuming, and a lot of the time it's singing, and then a lot of the time it's emails and admin and all that stuff. And to do something connecting my love of writing and music in one thing is great. So it to me, it's like a little break from the madness, and I can just sort out my thoughts. That's kind of what it is. It's just me sorting out my thoughts on things like recording albums and singles. So there is a new single on the way to on October 1st, which is just very exciting. And that's another song that's from my album, which is coming out at the end of November. So it's all happening.
And is that something you wrote, Grace? It's called Caught Up, right?
Yeah, it's my own song. Some parts that I ideas for pre-lockdown. I hate that phrase, but that's the only way I can describe it. Pre-lockdown, I had some ideas. And I guess, like everything else, I didn't have time to get to my own music. We're always learning stuff for concerts and weddings and whatever else, recordings, but it's so hard to pick up time to say I'm going to write my own music. And then when lockdown happened, I actually applied to get a little bit of funding, because I kind of, on the back of having written together a part, I sent this in to the Arts Council. I said, I want to do more of this. And they gave me some funding, and it allowed me to record Goodbye to Dublin, which I released with my Christmas EP last year, and Caught Up was actually recorded at the same time. So when I got the funding, I thought, oh God, I had kind of the idea for a song, and it's about mental health. It's about being caught up inside yourself, and like you could look totally fine on the front, on the outside, which a lot of people do, but it's kind of this churning, constant wheel of like getting stuck in a pattern, and that's kind of what it's about. It's quite wordy, but it was great to finally be able to put it out there. It's quite an exposing song, I guess, because I think everyone has moments of mental health going a bit funny, and I think it's really good to talk about it, but to sing about it, and especially your own experience of it, is quite, it's not easy. But what was interesting is I ended up recording it when 6 weeks pregnant, and you're feeling all types of at the time, and it was just such a real thing to sing that during a tough enough time. And then the music video I recorded a while after that last year, and I actually did it on an empty stage. So the video, when it does come out on the 10th of October, is an empty stage representing the fact the music industry just stopped. And now the song has become in my head a little bit of an anthem for the artists to perform, especially the performing artists like ourselves, who had to stop. And a lot of people's mental health, I think, was affected by no longer going on stage and meeting people and performing and getting to express themselves. So, we've had online concerts, but I think, it's been tough not meeting people. And I think a lot of us are very sociable and, like to meet people. So it's a bit of a, it's changed. It's my own story, but I think I'm hoping it might help some people who may need to hear it as well. And especially the artists out there.
And do you think, so I know several of you guys write your own music. Do you ever feel like, like you said, this is super personal, you put this out there. Do you ever feel like, oh man, why did I do that? And then afterwards, when you get the feedback, you're like, oh, good, like it's serving a greater purpose. But do you ever feel like a little bit like exposed because it is so personal? Yeah.
Yeah, this one especially, I think, because I haven't gotten the feedback yet, but this is probably the most exposed because I guess the first one I co-wrote was "Close the Door" for the Simon communities. The homeless crisis in Ireland was and still is a big issue at the time. But I didn't write the melody. I helped with some of the melody. I did the lyrics part of it, but we had the backing of a charity behind that. So I wasn't exposed. We were trying to expose an issue, and then Together Apart, I was trying to say, we just need to stick together. So that wasn't especially exposing me as a person.
Mm-hmm.
That was just kind of saying, this is our experience. Let's do this together apart. And then the Christmas one was a story, a sad love song, but it was very much a story, something I had gone through, but it could be anyone's story. Whereas this one is kind of the same, but I think because it's about mental health, it's a bit like, oh, is this your experience? I would say, yeah, absolutely. Before I would have been like, some people struggle with their mental health, but I think it's just like, it doesn't have to be this major thing. You could have like one panic attack in your life and still say that you've had issues with your mental health, or could be a daily thing, could be, once in a year, you just never know. But I think it's good just to say that it is from the heart, but it is probably, it's definitely the most exposed I'm going to feel. But I think after a year, no, nearly 2 years now of being forced to kind of face yourself, and now being a mom as well, it's changed me. And I thought, what's the point? Just, this is life, this is real, and it's our job as musicians, I think, to kind of be honest. I think to a point, obviously, if it's something that's completely private, don't go there. And it's still a song. Like, at the end of the day, it's a song. It's not me telling every single story of my life.
No, of course.
It's poetic. It's not desperately depressing or anything, but I hope it'll touch other people. But it's definitely the one I'm probably slightly more nervous about releasing, just on a personal level. Yeah.
Well, Natasha, your whole album was about love, and so how was that, sharing those stories?
Ooh. How long have you got? Well, basically, I think sharing stories about your love life is always, at first it feels really strange, but that's when I'm on my own with a lyric book and a piano, and it's like there's tears, and it's like, oh, did I really go through all this? And it's heart-wrenching because you're using your broken heart to make art, and then after that initial, it's like pulling thorns out, it is painful, but then after that initial hurt, you realize that other people are enjoying what you're doing. So when, say, I had Stefano in the studio with me, and he's making some really beautiful lush chords to accompany the melody and stuff, I'm kind of watching him, and I'm thinking, no, this is going to be useful for someone along the line, because I can see that someone else is now really into the fact that it sounds sad, or it sounds like desperate, or heart achingly beautiful, and then it develops from there. You see, when I went into the production studio and was working with Tom and other musicians, you could see them all getting into it, and you're like, you almost start forgetting about what the original pain was, and it becomes something else which kind of doesn't belong to you anymore. It's for others. And I think, just like what Grace said, it's our job as musicians to take our personal experiences and deliver them in a way that is cathartic, A, for us, but essentially is B, going to help heal somebody else. Because I know in some of the most desperate times in my life, music has helped me. There have been songs that I just want to hear on repeat because they are helping me. And if I can touch someone through my music, from my personal experience, then I feel like, oh, I've done my job.
100%. And I think we forget that when we see a performer or an actor and something really touches us, whether it's a film or a play or a piece of music, and we think about it afterwards and it's really connected with us, there is no judgment for that actor or that performer. Oh wow, what did Adele go through to have written that? You just realize that you've connected with it. And I think when another person shows you that they really understand what it is to be human and reflect that back, we think it's amazing. And I think that even though it might feel exposing and terrifying, I think when you get it right, people just really accept it and they understand it. And I think sometimes we forget that everybody understands and feel a connection with you. And that's when art, if a painting, a photograph, that's when it's really exciting because it's touched you. And I think the fact that, like, Grace and Natasha, you've written these things that have come from the heart. Ultimately, that's going to connect with people, and they're going to be moved by it, and you're really going to help them when you've read a brilliant book. It's that type of thing, isn't it? But I think it ultimately it feels exposing. But I think when it's right, that's when it's just super exciting, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Definitely. Yeah.
Well, I mean, as the listener, just like you're saying, we're just enjoying, but I love the process because I haven't done any writing and I'm like toying with things. So I'm like very interested in the way you guys are sharing, because I feel like if I did write something, I'd be so scared. So I love what you guys are doing with that.
All I can say, Natasha, is just take the leap of faith. Honestly, take the leap of faith, because it just doing it as the process is enlightening, and you actually learn about yourself. I think I learned more about myself from in the couple of years that it took me to write Lost in Love than it has in kind of 20 years of singing other people's songs, and I would urge Joanna Forest as well to write, because Joanna, you're an amazing performer, and I know that you've got a whole lifetime of music in you, because I know your story, and it's just that taking that leap of faith to do it. And I know you're surrounded also, Joanna, with amazing musicians that could, get you on that path. Sorry, I'm not telling you what to do.
No, I love it. I love it. No, I absolutely love it.
Again.
No, no, I think it is a leap of faith, and I think, I love reimagining other people's songs, of course, and I think that's really exciting. However,
you are amazing at it.
but I do think there must be something very special about sharing an experience completely, from the writing to creating it to performing it, rather than performing something and trying to put your take on it, your life experience, your feelings to the song, and because it's an interpretation of the song rather than it being your song. And also, it must be really exciting. Imagine if you get, I mean, Natasha, I don't know whether you've had this, or Grace, people doing covers of your songs. That must be pretty amazing, that you might get like a little Instagram, like a young aspiring person who's singing your songs or singing along. That must be amazing.
I often feel like when that happens, I've made it.
Yeah, I would feel that too. Yeah.
I haven't made it yet. I need somebody to sing my song.
You will.
I haven't made it yet either. But it actually, what you were saying, Joanna, it actually resonates with me in another way, which is interpreting somebody else's song. Actually, I think can sometimes even be harder, because you haven't had that initial experience. You have to really dig deep and become the actress. You have to dig deep and find out about whether it's a character that you have to imagine, or if it's a part that's already written and you have to imagine all the character traits that part would take on board. And so sometimes I think it's actually harder for me personally to actually sing other people's songs, because I have to work really hard at finding that initial feeling. And this is, I think, one of the amazing thing about performers is we just all work and we all connect with different things in different ways, and that's what makes, you know, the especially I think the classical crossover genre so unique in a
It is
way.
unique.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Great.
So
definitely.
when we're talking about people singing your songs, I know, Josh, you've had a couple of your choral pieces performed. So what's that like when you've
That must
written
be
that,
amazing.
right?
You for the first couple of read-throughs, you just don't breathe because you're just on the edge of your seat, hoping that they get what you. It's very personal, and a little intimidating. But when the one of the biggest compliments after the first composition I wrote was performed was someone said I got everything you were trying to express, and then it's like, okay, I can finally exhale. But you go through however many weeks or months or whatever of the learning process, someone else trying to get inside your head, like Natasha was saying. When you are the artist trying to interpret someone else's work, it's harder, to really get inside their head. So having people get inside my head is always a scary thing, but it's rewarding when you can see that connection has been made, to you, to me, when I see a choir actually getting it and grooving with something, but then also on a musical level, but then the message behind whatever just the music is, um, when people get that too, it's so cool. It makes you want to do more. So
Mm.
for Joanna and Natasha, I also second Natasha's encouraging to
Mm.
just take the leap of faith.
Mm. Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm feeling inspired.
Yes.
I think we're gonna all have to do a collaboration at one point too. I think
Oh yeah,
it
That
needs
would
to
be
happen.
lovely. That would
needs
be
to
Definitely.
happen.
great. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So Joanna, you've done, World in Union, which is just a beloved song. It's sung so many times, but the version you released has a really special meaning. So tell us a little bit about how you were asked to do that
Well,
single.
yeah, so that came completely out of the blue. Last year, I'd seen on the news that Sergeant Matt Ratner had been killed in the line of duty, and I thought that it was so tragic. But I didn't realise I had a mutual friend at East Grinstead Rugby Club where he devoted so much of his time being head coach. And Millie said to me that he'd been nominated for BBC Sports Personality of the Year Unsung Hero Award, and could we create some music to go with his nomination? Could it be World in Union? And I was like, wow, yes, of course, I really want to help. So I contacted a friend of mine, a local friend of mine, Joel, who's an amazing pianist, and he created an an a version that is just so unusual, I think, for World in Union, because you usually think of this big sort of like stomping, like huge song, like with a big orchestra and a big like yeah celebration. But this was just piano and vocal, and I just felt that he just got the tone absolutely right to be this tribute, in Matt Ratner's name. And after we recorded it, which was a very emotional time because some of his friends from the rugby club came, and it was still terribly raw for them the way he was killed. He was a custody sergeant, and one of the people in custody seemed to have two guns, and he was just shot in the line of duty. And I think the way it happened so quickly and so tragically, it was still very raw. So it's very emotional. Emotional for me and Joel. We'd never met him, but we could see the huge love everybody had for him, whether that was his police family, his rugby family, his friends and family. It was like high stakes. We really wanted to get it right because we felt that this was being recorded for a reason, and we had to get the tone and the sentiment right to fully make the most of the opportunity to create something especially for him. And after it was recorded, they decided they would create a foundation, the Matt Ratner Rugby Foundation, that would be his legacy to continue all the wonderful and brilliant ideas he had, wanting to help young people through sport. And so then we released the single, and the amount of love for him, because on the day of release it was #1 in the iTunes classical chart, which was amazing. But then throughout the day it was going up and up and up the main chart, and then it was like at something like 24, I think, and we were like, you're absolutely kidding me. This just shows how much love there was for him. And I think it's the most moving thing that I've ever done in my career. And there's been some opportunities to meet his partner. There was an unveiling of of like a silhouette statue that's at the rugby club, where I met Sue and his partner, and she told me that she'd been listening to World in Union on repeat after he died. And I just felt, we say that music has the power to heal. The amount of people who said that had really, really helped them. And I was just like, wow, like me and Joel were like, oh my gosh, like we created it because we wanted to help, but we've really helped in ways that we couldn't even imagine. And then just last weekend, it's been a year since he died. So I sang at a huge day that was for him, that there was rugby. He was from New Zealand, so there was Maori traditional culture there. And I learnt the New Zealand anthem, which I didn't know, and I sang that in Jerusalem, and then World in Union. And a year on, it feels like it was more a celebration of his life, even though it was still terribly, terribly tragic. But the press have been so behind him. They've reported on everything that's, from the actual tragic story to the funeral to the release of World in Union. I've never done something that has been talked about on things like BBC Breakfast and the actual news. It was on the news again from last weekend, and I think that's just testament to what like a wonderful person he was. So it was out of the blue, where things are feeling a bit quiet because I've been the weird year of lockdown, and then this happened, and it just goes to show that sort of everything that I'd done had been with like a full orchestra with like planning, which has been brilliant. But this was literally like, Joel, can you do an orchestration for this? And we've got to turn it around very quickly. And he's like, I've got some studio time booked in a local studio. Let's just do it. And we just did it. Piano, vocal, must have, maybe sang through it in the studio 3 or 4 times, and then it was mixed and it was done, and then that creation I'm so proud of. But I think it's because Joel really understood how to turn that song into something else. So yeah, it was completely unexpected, and I just feel very, very proud of it, because I feel like I helped a whole grieving community of people who loved him. He was definitely a wonderful guy. I wish I'd got to meet him. He was absolutely the best of the best. And yeah, I think I'll always look back on that as something I'm really proud of.
It's so gorgeous, Joanna. And I always love your interpretations because they're a bit different. Like the In My Life, it's one of my favorites from you. You've got the nature sounds going. It's so different. But this, I love the stripped back. It's so beautiful when it's just like, again, it's very vulnerable, right? It's just very much like you and the listener.
Because when I was recording that, it was literally, I had, just because it was so raw, and because why we were recording it, I had his friends who were just still very, very, very tearful. And I think that really makes you just think, oh my gosh, this is just so, they've just lost somebody who means the world to them, and this is such a difficult time for them. And I think that really came across, like with me and Joel. When I listened to it, I remember back to the recording day, and we were just like, oh wow, like this is a really special thing. It's like a privilege to be asked to record this. And what was really lovely, when I went back at the weekend to East Grinstead Rugby Club, we'd signed the sheet music, and they've got it framed up there, which was really
Oh,
nice.
nice.
Yeah, I need to take a photo and show Joel, who did the arrangement. But yeah, music definitely has the power to heal. Absolutely, it does, 100%, doesn't it? I think there can be something really magical about music, and really necessary about music when you're going through like a really bad time.
Oh, absolutely.
100%.
It has to reflect, because you even think the classical composers, they were trying to say something. They weren't existing in a vacuum, which we kind of see now. Josh had done a beautiful tribute with all the unfortunate, killings we had in America. Josh, do you want to share a little bit about that beautiful tribute you did? I think it was like a whole choir. You had a lot of people singing a spiritual.
Yes. I'm trying to remember.
I put you
Okay.
on the spot.
Sorry. Yes, the whole lockdown seems like it was 10 years ago, and it was just last year. But yes, we did. My the same gentleman who runs the theater that I work at. We were both discussing what could the artist response be to what was going on in America at the time, and so he got a lot of all of these various different artists, some professional, some of his students, and we all did this collaboration on the piece. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child, and it was for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, and this was specifically targeted towards the George Floyd
Mhm.
um, killing, where for 8 minutes and 46 seconds he was knelt on and couldn't breathe. So
Yeah.
for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, we went through um, different singers singing parts of that phrase, and there was no background music. It was just them solo, and then at the very end, I did an arrangement for all of the singers to sing behind George Shirley, who was one of the first African Americans to have a major role at the Metropolitan Opera. And it was a beautiful thing, an example of community, and what like you said, we respond, or artists respond to what's going on, where or good artists should try to connect
Yeah.
with the world and the community in which they're living in. And that was probably one of the most meaningful things I've ever done, just because due to us all being locked down at home, people were available who we probably never could have gotten to schedule. Okay, well, I need you to go to this studio and get your party, and everyone just did it. It was that was special.
It's been so fun to see all the things we've been able to accomplish in quarantine. I mean, I know Grace, Natasha, you've been working on an album. Joanna, you recorded the single. Josh, you're mentioning this. And Joanna and Natasha, you guys also picked up some new skills. You both have different shows. So, Joanna, you have a radio program. Natasha, you have a YouTube show. Tell us about that.
Joanna, you go first. Yours is much more fun than mine, I think.
Well, I was a guest on a brilliant new radio station, a national radio station called Great British Radio. And then they asked me to become a presenter on it, which has blown my mind. As somebody who, is trying to really champion the classical crossover genre to get it onto a national radio station, my show is called Classical Gas. It has just been amazing. It's been so much fun. The guests that I've had have just been incredible. This Sunday it's one of Il Divo, which was just great. I've got I'm getting to meet my, people who are like my heroes. I'm talking to Mike Batt tomorrow of Womble's fame, and lots more. And Paul Potts, Jonathan Antoine was my first one. For Lucy Kay, Sergeant Colin Thackeray, who won Britain's Got Talent. Louise Dearman, West End star. Just had all these fantastic guests, and I really feel like I get to know them afterwards, because it's an hour-long show, and it's a sort of a deep dive into their lives and careers, and we talk about music that has meant a lot to them. So it's in different little sections, like it's like childhood, steps to success, hitting the big time, proudest achievement, and sort of what's coming up. And yeah, it's just been absolutely brilliant. It's I've always liked the idea of having different strings to my bows. Like, I love writing my column for Feel Wonderful magazine, and I feel like I've always wanted maybe to take a step into broadcasting. I just never thought my first step would be this big, to be on a station where the other presenters are people that people have actually heard of. I feel like wow. So for me, it's been like a brilliant opportunity, and because it's a radio station, that's national, I'm getting these fantastic guests. I'm really just hoping to build on the show, and speak to just lots more interesting people. And yeah, it's been another unexpected thing, to come out of these strange times. But I think it's so difficult to, get yourself out there, as people say, or whatever. I just feel like this is just like another vehicle to just, hopefully, as well as being super interesting, profile raising, for in the future, for making more music, making connections with these wonderful guests. So yeah, it's been really brilliant. I feel really, really lucky that I came up with the sort of concept of how the format would be, and they said, yes, that sounds great. So it's amazing. So at the moment, it's all being done virtually. So that's another amazing thing of technology. But the editors are amazing, and it all gets put together brilliantly. So it's every Sunday at 2 p.m. UK time on Great British Radio.
It's a beautiful show, Joanna. I love the one you did with Lucy. And of course, Jonathan Antoine's fans, they will support it. They are awesome.
It was brilliant. So Jonathan was my first one, and that was a brilliant kickstart to the show, because it just got lots of people tweeting about it. Because what's great about his fans is they all sort of communicate via social media, which is brilliant. So they all seem to be a lovely community together, the fanned ones. And so that was absolutely brilliant. I really felt with Lucy that, even though I think I've only met her once, but I think I just sort of felt like I did know her somehow, because I followed her career, and I felt she was so open and sort of vulnerable in the interview. And I think that's really interesting for people to listen to, that not everybody maybe feels confident the whole time, that things don't come easily, that you do, even if somebody is, has achieved what you want to achieve, there were hard days, but they still sort of picked themselves up, and they got there. And I just loved hearing about, Andrea Bocelli and that type of exciting things like that. And she's got a new album out, and I felt really privileged that we were the first station to play. It was Like a Prayer, Madonna, a brilliant cover of it. And also we had Daniel Emmett, America's Got Talent Daniel, and he let us play a couple of his songs first. Absolutely great guy. Gave us a, what did it really feel like, that audition where he was given an hour to learn a song in Italian, and it's amazing, but he absolutely smashed it. So yeah, I feel like hopefully there's a lot of warmth in the show because I feel like it's just, just a really lovely conversation. And yeah, it's been absolutely brilliant. So, and the station is getting bigger and bigger all the time. It only started this year, but it's doing fantastic. So that is great news.
So tell us,
Well,
Natasha. Oh, sorry. Go
I was
ahead.
going to just say, Joanna, well, I just want to say congratulations for getting this show,
Ah,
and actually congratulations to you for actually putting together a show which is really interesting, especially for not only the public but also for artists to listen to, because like you said, it's really interesting for artists to listen to other artists and their journeys and their backgrounds, and whether they're composers or writers or performers. It's also it really inspiring for us. So thank you, because
ah.
it is so exciting and insightful at the same time.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad you're enjoying it. One of my favourite parts is asking, how it all began and when did the sort of penny drop that they had this passion for music. And without fail, everybody has had this connection with music right from childhood. Not Nobody seems to have said to me, oh, it was something I discovered like a way older. In whatever way, even how small, it was definitely as a child, music meant something to them. And even if they weren't sure it was going to be a career, they knew that they absolutely loved music, which is really interesting, I think.
I'm actually really looking forward to the Mike Batt interview. So I will be listening with open ears because I actually have done a cover of one of his songs,
Oh, which one?
Bright Eyes, which will be on the new album. So if you
Beautiful
can, please
song.
can you ask him about
Yep,
Bright
absolutely. Well, he's done
because I just it's one of my childhood songs.
yeah, it's an
Um,
incredible song. Imagine what it must feel like to have written that song.
exactly,
I
it's just kind
mean,
of mind blowing. So yeah, that's just like one small favor for me.
yeah, well, he's released this year a complete just piano version with no vocals at all. So I'll definitely be talking about Bright Eyes, definitely. So yeah, I mean, wouldn't it be brilliant to write a song that just was endured through decades and decades and decades? I mean, wow.
Yeah, exactly. Well, just Thursday. I mean, it's nothing as wonderful as Joanna's show, but it's actually literally it's more of a fan show, and I decided to do it because on every Friday when I was, because you know what it's like as a musician, you're doing a lot of admin, and so every Friday I used to kind of just click onto Facebook and just say, "Hi, it's Friday," and then that became a fry. Well, I called it Friday because I was happy that's the weekend, and and then what I found is on a Friday I actually started really not enjoying Fridays because the Friday it was kind of becoming more like work. It wasn't just a small little high thing anymore. And I thought I need to reconcept this to make it a proper fan thing because I kept getting, when someone says hi, you don't want to say bye. You want to kind of, when it's your fans, you want to keep the conversation going. So that's why I decided to do Friday essentially on a Thursday, but then I realized I couldn't call it Friday on a Thursday. And so because I've kind of got this kind of ethereal slash fantasy-esque styling a little, I was trying to come up with kind of a concept, and that's where Thursday came from because it's the god, the Norse god of Thor, who's the Norse god of thunder. And so I was kind of like, well, Thursday nights are now the beginning of the weekend, and we can start off the weekend with a bang. So basically, I've given essentially everyone a 4-day week. So, which, is not a bad thing. And it's quite fun. I've been trying to have, make a format. So I've had some interviews. I know you guys have been, I've had Natasha, Grace and Joanna on, and so it looks like you're next in line, Josh, to be interviewed. But I'm doing it all through this software which I've had to learn, which is really great because I learned it during the lockdown. And so I feel like I've become a lot more of a tech wizard over the last.
Yeah, because it's really clever. Because isn't it on Facebook and YouTube at like the same time or something?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can stream it to both channels at the same time, but that can be a paid service. But what I'm essentially using is a software called OBS. And if you guys do get a chance to learn it, it actually is quite interesting because you can bring lots of different things on screen live. So you can play like a movie, you could play a video, I'm essentially looking at your screen and bringing you on screen with me, and that has been a huge learning curve. But yeah, so it's essentially a fan show and just a little bit of fun. I actually said I was going to be back in September, and now it's almost the end of September. But I've just been too busy, and I think it's also because of the pandemic feels like it's coming to an end, and we're going back to real life. And so I'm not sure how long it's going to go on for, but I will definitely be doing it probably till at least the end of this year. So yeah, if you're watching this and want to join me on a Thursday evening just for half an hour, then pop over to my YouTube channel.
I admire you so much for going live, Natasha, because I like to pre-record. I like to know that there's an opportunity to edit if necessary. So I really admire that.
I think it's just probably because I'm a little bit of an adrenaline junkie.
Okay.
And I just love the fact that you feel like it can just go wrong any second.
Yeah,
and,
it's like the risk
as well. It's like
Yes.
It's like yeah.
All
Well,
right.
it's like Joanna.
Absolutely, yeah. It's that risk of like anything could happen. What's going to happen when you step out onto the stage? You have no idea. All you can do is just hope that it's all gonna go okay. Oh, and interesting. Paul Potts said to me, and when you remember a pearl of wisdom that an artist has said. He said that things go wrong. Even if you're a professional, technical things go wrong. You might be having a bad day. You might forget the words. But what makes you a professional is the way that you react to something going wrong. And I was like, that's so true, isn't it? There's some things we don't have control of, but it's the way you react to it. That's always made I think of that, and it just makes me feel a bit calmer. There's certain things that are out of our control, but it's the way we react to it. That's what makes us professional, and that's what part of doing a good job is, because you can only prepare as the artist so much.
Yeah.
Very wise words.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I think we need to make sure we don't break not the illusion, but break the whole thing. Because I always say, I've had a few singing students myself in the past, and I say, don't get in the way. Like if you've had a moment where you've had a wobble, first of all, I guarantee you, maybe one person, maybe you're the only person that's heard that. Or if it's something that's really obvious, don't go out of the zone, because if you do, you're going to take everybody else out of the zone that they were in with you. So if you like trip over your own feet or whatever it is on stage, or forget the lyrics, or if it's something really obvious, I think acknowledge it. Don't just get really awkward and start, I've had moments on stage, and it became this lovely thing where something went wrong outside of my control, like the time I got stuck on a stage, like I physically could not get off a stage before. I could believe this. I was on I was on stage, sang my last song, and I was like, and it had gone well, so I relaxed, and I was like, okay, and I thought they're gonna give me the encore, hopefully, because you've got the big song at the end. And I walked off confidently, and then I was like, I can't get what had happened was the theater I was in, a little theater, had a stage for like a play set up behind the curtain. So the door that I've been coming on and off all night wasn't the stage door. It was a set door. So it was a door from this set that I was actually in. I didn't realize I was actually in a bit of a set. So someone had closed the door that wasn't actually the stage door. It was this other door, one of the dancers in the show at the time. And I was like, and the curtain had closed. So I was like, oh my God, I've gone insane. I cannot. So then I went behind the curtain. So all you could see was my feet popping out, like something from the Wizard of Oz. And then I just went and came back out again. And like we had the best laugh and everyone loved it. It was the moment of the night. But if I had just, I don't know, cried or something, can't get off, it would have ruined the whole night. So I think it's really important as performers to kind of just, as I said, if it's a tiny thing, ignore it, move on, don't let them see it, because you're going to ruin the thing. They could be having a moment, it could be their favorite song, it could be reminding them of somebody else, it could be their only escape from their reality for the that year, that month, that day. And I say don't get in the way. But if it's something major, you have to be the performer, you have to put on the show. If like that same tour was cursed because the sound completely went in another show, and I just went to the front of the stage and I said, okay, well, I don't have a microphone anymore, so you're going to have to listen to me up a little bit closer. And it was just this lovely bonding moment. I just sang a cappella, and then it all came back on again. But if I just stood there and said, okay guys, let's take a 10-minute break, like why would we do that? There was an interval timed, everything was timed to happen. So I think it's so important as a performer to know that the show is not just the singing. It's, you have to keep the whole thing going.
100%. And they'll remember that. They'll be like, oh, when we saw Grace, the microphone didn't work and it was really funny because she had to sing a cappella. And they love it. They love being part of something that's gone wrong. And sometimes I think if it's your fault, you can feel really bad about it. Once when I was Wendy in Peter Pan at Christmas, I forgot to put my harness on under my nightie. So Peter's going, just think happy thoughts. I'm like, happy thoughts, Peter? Oh, I'm thinking happy thoughts. And I was like, I literally don't have my harness on. That's why I could run about. So I had to leave Peter on stage just ad-libbing to Michael and John about Neverland and how amazing it would be. And I just remember feeling like really unprofessional. It's because I got ready very quickly. I think I got ready at like Act 1 beginners. I was like, oh, it's that time already. Ah. And so I think but then you have to think to yourself, it's just a show on the other hand as well, and don't beat yourself up for years and years because something went wrong. There are people every day who do like brain surgery and heart transplants and things like that. So, and if something does go wrong, it is just a show. Like you say, Grace, acknowledge it, try and include the audience and just make sure they've had like a lovely time.
That's our job.
Yeah,